it is having overfitting. Coming initially, we have imported all the packages required like pandas, numpy, matplotlib, re for regular expression, pre-processing, train test and split label encoding layers, tokenization, padding sequences, two categorically used for one hot encoding to convert it acts as one hot encoding layer sequential neural network and legs for embedding convert dropout all those things. We have loaded the data set into the data frame, reading the top 5 rows, checking the info of the data frame, checking for the null values. As it is the sentiment thing, I have taken that sentiment into the target and phrase it into the independent variables expert. I have lowered the data in the data frame to all data into lowercase, then applying the regular expressions on it. Applying regular expression to remove the special characters. I was only allowing the characters which are in small to small z, capital A to capital Z, and 0 to 9. Else everything special characters will be removed. When I see after removing the special characters and lowering the data, this is how it looks. I was tokenizing the data with taking the maximum number of words as 2000, splitting with space with maximum words as 2000, tokenizing here and converting the text to sequences, padding the data, padding acts. If for example we are taking maximum words as 2000, if for example there are only 200 words in particular sentence, it adds zeros from 201 to 2000. If there are 5000 words, it has to crop it to 1000. This is taken care by padding. I was taking 128 number of neurons for the embedded layer and 5 classes here. For the output layer, I was taking 5 because the sentiment there are values between 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. As there are 5 categories, I have taken number of classes 5. After converting the sequence to text, like the shape is like 45, so for the embedded layer the input shape would be 45. You can see that x dot shape, it would be 45 here. The input number of neurons should be 45 for the embedded layer. We are using the sequential neural network. Embedded layer, I will use this number of neurons, and embedded dimensions as 128, and dropout I have added 20 percentage. I have taken convolution one dimensional network as it is a text data. I have taken 1D convolution network. I was using maximum pooling. Maximum pooling is like, for example, if it is from the thing, from the fourth, it would be which is having the maximum thing. As it is 1D, there will be two parts. But it takes the object which is having the maximum value in those two. And for this convolution one day I have taken ReLU as an activation. For this tensor I have taken ReLU and dropout of 20%. And for the last layer I have taken 5 number of new as 5 values like 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. I have taken 5 for the output layer and softmax as an activation. For compiling the model, we need to place 3 like loss, optimizer and metrics. We have taken loss as categorical cross entropy, optimizer as Adam, and metrics as accuracy. Doing the label encoding on that, applying the label encoding on the Y, transforming and applying the train test data with 75 and 25, fitting the model here. You can see the accuracy is getting increased for each of them, 0.5 in the first run, in the second epoch it is 0.65, in the third epoch it is 0.6, in the fourth epoch it is 0.64, in the fifth epoch it is 0.65. It is increasing for every epoch. When I predict one object, it is like 3, the predictor level is 3. The keys are like, as I have used accuracy as a metric. There are like 4 things: loss, accuracy, validation loss, and validation accuracy. When I plot the loss model for that, you can see there is from this graph. This is the loss graph. When I plot loss and validate loss graph and accuracy graph, you can see that it got merged here in between 1 and 2. It means that there is overfitting. This model is overfitting. So to fix this overfitting, we are using early stopping to handle the overfitting. Early stopping, I was using monitor as validation loss and mode as minimum initially. If mode is minimum, the training will stop and the quantity monitored has stopped decreasing. As I put 5 as the epochs, you can see the validation is loss is getting decreased. It did not stop, and I plotted the graph with loss and accuracy. When I put the maximum as the mode, you can see the maximum will stop when the quantity has stopped increasing. You can see the validation from 0.1 to it got 0.98. So with early stopping it got stopped. You can see the loss here and loss and accuracy graph for that. When I put validation loss and modulus minimum with the number of epochs as 15, you can see it got stopped at the 8th epoch. See, it got increased from 0.91 to 0.92. Initially it was 1.01. It reduced till here 0.979494929191. When there is an increase, it got early stopping, got triggered and it stopped. Like passing early stopping, like we are defining it here, and we are passing it as a callback in the model sheet as callback here. It is getting triggered. For the graph for this is validation and loss graph is like this. Coming to the second question is 20 news group dataset applying LSTM and including embedded layer for that and plotting the last graph for that. Coming to the 20 news groups, we have done this in Google Colab because our system resources is not sufficient. It is running for long time. So we have used Google Colab for some part for some and no, Jupyter Notebook in our local system for some. We have imported the package like the similar packages, some similar and some additional packages which are required, and importing the datasets as it is an open dataset. We have downloaded from public like from sklearn datasets. We have imported it. There are 20 type of categories. We have chosen two categories. We have chosen IBM PC hardware and system Mac hardware for that. We have taken the subset as all. If you want to use only train, if you want to download only train dataset, put subset as train. If you want to put only subset of test, put only test. I was downloading completely train and test, so I put all. Yeah, we have taken those two categories and subset as all, so that it would download all the train and test related data. If you are specific about train or test, specify the thing. Like I have taken dot data into sentences and dot target into y. For tokenization of data, I have taken 2000 as a maximum number of words. Uh, Applying tokenization and converting text to sequences here, doing padding on that. The padding works as I said previously, the same concept here as I was using 2000. If particular sentence is having more than 2000, it crops there. If particular sentence is having less than 2000, it adds zeros to those. Applying label encoding on that for the target matrix, and splitting the data test train into 80 and 20 percentage. After splitting the data and applying the text to sequences, this is how the shapes of the data looks like. I was adding the embedding layer with I have taken for the embedded layer, I have taken 128 as a dimension and LSTM out as 196. I was using the sequential neural network with embedded dimensions as 128. Input shape, you can see that input shape it would be 6819 here as it is 1. It would be 6818, like the input number of neurons should be 6818 neurons. And the maximum features, it with these neurons, it maximum features of 2000. We have defined this maximum features here 2000. For the embedding layer, it would be 2000. And the LSTM, I have taken dropout of 0.2 and recurrent dropout of 0.2. And for the dense layer, I have taken 2 neurons. This is the last layer. For the last layer, I have taken 2 neurons. And the softmax is an activation for that. While compiling, I was taking loss as categorical entropy and optimizer as add-on. Matrix is accuracy. While fitting the model, I have taken 5 epochs. You can see that for every epoch there is initially it was like accuracy is like 0.56. It is getting increased for every epoch as it is like 94%. I have stopped at 5 epochs with batches of 64. If I take batches of more, it is throwing an error like Google Colab is throwing an error. It is going out of memory and the session is getting terminated. So I have run with the batches of 64. As the dataset is huge, it is throwing such error, I think so. And when I take case, we can see validation loss, validation accuracy, loss and accuracy. When I plot the graph, it looks like this. This is the graph for loss and validation loss. This is the graph for all the four things like accuracy, accuracy, validation, accuracy loss and validation loss. To handle here, we can, as there is a merge in the data, you can see that there is a merge here for accuracy. So here there is a merge, there is overfitting in the data. So is the reason to handle overfitting. I was using the early stopping here too. I was using the minimum as the mode and monitoring and validation loss. If the mode, it will stop when the quantity monitored has stopped decreasing. You can see that validation loss 0.675556. It got stopped here as it initially it was increased from 55 to 56. So it stopped. Early stop, it got triggered. It got triggered. We defined it and calling back, fitting in the while using dot fit callback. I was calling that. When I plot the last graph after that, there are three epochs. It stopped at third epoch, so graph looks like this. For the complete graph, it looks like this. Coming to the third question. Third question is like using the Kaggle dataset. I have taken this first one, like 10 monkey species, and applying the image classification with CNN on that, and the classification result with and without doing scaling, and saving the model and predicting on that. It is as I said, I have taken monkey species. As it is a large data set, I was using the Google Colab. I have like imported all the required packages. There are a lot of packages in the data set, a lot used. As it is huge data set, it is as it is from Kaggle. I have stored this in my Google Drive and mounting my Google Drive with the Google Colab. When we do that, it asks for authentication. We have to pass it. It is run by my one of my teammates, so you can, or else you can see that I have placed the both train and test data sets in the different path. I will loading both of them, and there's another file like a monkey labels.txt which is having the label names with there are like 10 label names. Like the data here is like each folder is having, there are folders from n0 to n9. Each folder is having images, like you see that n0 to n9. In n0 folder there are these images like mantled hover is a common name and this is a Latin name, and there are like in n0, like this particular folder is exist in train images and validation images. In train there are 131, in validation there are 26. These are all the number of count of images. As I said, there is one txt file. I was reading that using .csv. These are the columns like label. This is the Latin. This is how the data exists in that file. When I see the labels, you can see this got printed here. The labels. Nilgiri Lankur, this level mantle over. This got printed. The common names got printed. I just printed as common names. To predict the image, like to show the images in that folder, I have written this particular function like in the range and calling this training block and reading using imread and using choice reading that particular directory and showing image using imshow. You can see I have from the labels I have taken it from the n4. You can see from the n4 folder like this the n4 with image number this n4 folder with image number 20 n4 folder with the image number 121.jpg. It is random as we have taken it as random. It will be changing every time random.choice, right? This image number in the next run it can be some other image will be loaded. For every run as it is random it gets changed. Reporting classification as asked with and without scaling. This was before scaling. So this is scaling like it we have used rescale. The better would be without scale. It is with rescale. We have used 1 by 225. I have taken image data generator here, uh, and I was calling this image data generator with the flow from directory. I was using train one as I loaded train and test separately. So train and validation for, I was using separately and calling the image data generator separately for both the part, and I was taking samples into train for this and validation into this. Validation number like here we can see the count. Here we can validation like the individual count. When I come to the total count, you can see that total number is 272. I was creating the sequential neural network. Here, as it is an images kind of data, I was using convolutional neural network with 2D. Input shape is like 150, 150, and 3. You can see the images here. So the image size is like 150 as it is given 3. Using convolution neural network 32 features and 3 into 3 as a size and activation as zero. As I said previously, I was using max pooling 2D with 2 into 2 size. It picks the maximum value from the I added some more layers and compiling it. Uh, when as there is a requirement of saving the model and predicting the from the model, I have saved the model here into the current path, and I was using the checkpoints here. This does a call to save the model or model wait at some frequency, and I was using this checkpoint as a callback list. I was fitting the model here. I have just compiled here. See, I have just compiled with optimizer as Adam losses and metrics as accuracy. I was fitting the model here with train generator as for training and the same for the validation. Uh, and verbose as one. I have taken 30 epochs here. I have taken 30 because the accuracy is getting increased for each and every epoch. You can see for each epoch it is getting increased. So for the 30th epoch it is like 0.9934. So I have stopped it here. I have put 30 because as it is getting increased, I tried for a lot of epochs and it is good. I stopped it here. I plotted the loss and validation graphs. This is training accuracy and validation accuracy. This is training loss and validation loss. Now without scaling, as there is a requirement with and without scaling. Now previously I have taken rescale as by 150. You can see here I have taken by 255 as scaling here. Now I was doing without scaling. Here there is no scaling. You can see that image data generator is blank. The same process I was following without scaling. Now you can see the accuracy. For the same 30 epochs, it was previously like 0.9934. Now it got increased to 0.9980. Without scaling, there is somewhat increase in the accuracy for the same number of 30 epochs. The graphs got changed like so much. Previously, you can see the graph is like this, but now there is a lot of change without scaling in the graphs. Like coming to the loading the saved model and predicting the value, I was loading the model here and see load model on the file. I was taking the load model and from the file path, and I was predicting on that the actual value for I have done the prediction on that, and the actual value is 0 and the predicted value is 1. Still the accuracy is 99 percentage. For this particular object the prediction got wrong. Coming to the next question, it is like New York Times comments and headings uh, to train a text generation model which can to generate news headlines, and passing a sample headline or word to model to predict the generated headline. Like I did not, I have imported the required packages, loading the datasets. I was taking all the datasets, only the articles datasets. I did not take the comments because in the comments dataset there is no column name with header. So I have only taken the dataset. Sorry, the files which are only the articles which are having the headlines. As our question is with the headlines, we have to predict the headlines. As the comments is not having headlines, I have taken only articles. Articles is having headlines. So it loads all the files from the current working directory. These are the 10 lines which got loaded, top headings which got loaded. I was cleaning the data using the join with the space and UTF-8 as an encoding type, decoding it into ANSI and ignore, cleaning the dataset with commas, full stops. As it is a news data, there will be a lot of like full stops, commas, and blah 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 like stuffs. So I was removing the, you can see removal of punctuations and lower casing of I was doing converting into lowercase by using the dot lower and removing of the punctuation marks here, and generating sequence of n-gram tokens. Like if there is one word, it would be 1 gram. If there is a combination of two, it would be bigram. If combination of three, there is a trigram. If the number of words get increased, then n value get increased. I was generating sequence of n-gram tokens here. I was using the tokenization, converting the token tokenization of the data. Then after tokenization here, converting into text to sequences. After that, I was applying the increment value here. You can see get sequence of tokens, and after that I was padding the sequences and obtaining the variables of prediction and target. Here, here it, and applying the LSTMs for the text generation. For the LSTM, initially I was taking sequential neural network and adding the embedded layer to that and taking the LSTM with 100. And for the dense layer, I was taking the activation of softmax and compiling on loss and optimizer as Adam. And now I was training our model. Now training means like fitting our model. I have taken approx as 100. It is taking somewhat good time to run as it is 100 epochs. Now generating the text. I have taken predict classes, and I was predicting a requirement is to take a word, see, pass a sample headline or word to model and predict. So I was passing, see, I was passed United States. Now they return it five. Like this generate text, I have to particular predict. I have taken this particular function generate text. This is the word what is required, and the next word, the number of words later. Like for example, if you pass, it has to give the next five words. Like more, no, Kabamaka, and affordable. The next five words and the model and the maximum sequence length. These are all it has to be passed. Like I passed United States and it returned the next for no Obamacare and affordable when I passed President Trump and I passed the forwards, CTO, save, a tails notes. When I passed for the next one, it gave me middle school president turns CA. Like it is predicting the next four words based on the two given words. Using this generate text, I will call this here and define this function here. Have trained here, it is getting predicted with that model. Coming to the fifth question, it is applying autoencoder and passing the result of autoencoder to CNN or LSTM, and the same thing like applying PCA and passing the PCA output to CNN or LSTM, comparing the result of both of that. As it is a CIFAR10 dataset, it is a somewhat large dataset. I was using the Google Colab again, like I was importing all the required packages and loading the dataset and dataset as it is public dataset. I was importing it from class datasets. I was reshaping the data like UniIntIte. It is a, as you have used UIntIte. UIntIte is a data type which contains all the whole numbers from 0 to 255. As it is an image dataset, there are numbers from 0 to 255. So I have used UIntIte as type and transposing the data set with the ratio of 50,332 as it is three-dimensional data set. The 3 would be the number of layers and 32 would be the features and 50,000 would be the number of samples for both X-test and X-train. Now, as I was scaling the inputs, as I said, it is an image data set and having the values from 0 to 255. I was scaling the inputs from 0 to 255 to 0 to 1. I was dividing the X-train and X-test from by 255, and I was flattening the data from 32 to, as I was given 32 and 32 here, I was flattening the data from 32 into 32 into to a size of vector into size of 3072 here. You can see when I multiply it is 3072 after doing the prod from 1 32 32 into 3 it is 3072 and the length is the same. I have only multiplied these three like 3 32 and 32. It got changed to 3072 after reshaping. You can see it looks like this, like 50 as the first number of samples is same, only the next dimension got changed. I was flattening it, like uploading the one hot encoding on the Y on the target labels. Next, I was using the auto encoding here. For the auto encoding, I was taking 128 as an encoding dimension. As there are 3072 is the number of, you can see the 3072 is the shape. As we have taken 128, each neuron gets 24 as a compression. Like each neuron stores 24 things like coming from 24 neurons. Input shape is 3072 as it is 3072. I encoding here with activation as ReLU and 120 as it from the previous level it will be getting in. Yeah. to this as input layer. From the decoder, the encoder would be the input. For every layer, the before layer would be the input. For auto encoding, I have taken this input and decoded. For the encoder, I was taking this input and encoded. I was decoding here with the input and decoding layer with autoencoder, and I was compiling it. I was creating a model here, model D for the decoder. I used the tensor board for the logson to plot the histograph. I was fitting the model here on xtrain and validation on the xtest. Uh, Here we have done xtrain and xtest, right? I was using for fitting the model on xtrain and validating on xtest. I was reconstructing the inputs and encoded representation by using dot predict. Now, as asked, like we have to pass out autoencoder output for the CNN for everything. Like there are 50,000 samples in the train and 10,000 samples in the test. I was setting a for loop, and for everything for each sample I was predicting using reshape. It is like our sample is 3072, so I was reshaping into that for both test and train. Later on that data I was reshaping into 32 into 3 for every on the test and train. This is the original image, how it looks like. The reconstructed image is like this with auto encoding. Later on plotting the histogram, like accuracy from the history object. This looks the accuracy and the validation accuracy looks like this, and loss and validation loss looks like this. Now applying CNN on the auto encoded data. Like I was using sequential neural network, as it is image data I was using CNN with 2D and dropout as 20 percentage. The same is uh, like CNN here, and I was compiling the model and fitting it. The accuracy is 22.98. When applying the same thing with PCA and CNN, I was taking the PCA and transforming it, scaling the data, reshaping with 3072, scaling the data, applying PCA, transforming with here I was transforming with PCA, reshaping it. I was adding now to this PCA apply data. I was applying the CNN with compiling and fitting here. The accuracy is 22.58. Previously it was 22.98. Now it was 22.52. Like the accuracy got decreased with from autoencoding with CNN to PCA with CNN. Thank you.